Good afternoon. This is Dr. Ebony Green. This is Soul Chat Session 6. Today's Soul Chat is actually going to be about loving even the broken pieces of yourself. And it comes from yesterday, I had an incredible conversation with someone I love so deeply. And we were just talking about life and different things that happen along the path and what that all means for us and trying to figure out and make meaning of what comes next and how now is so different from before in terms of who we are and as opposed to who we were, right? And what was interesting is that when we were talking, her challenge really was acknowledging, if you will, the broken pieces of herself, and understanding its positioning and who she was today. And really sometimes feeling shame or embarrassment or frustration or anger, either about what you allowed yourself to engage in, what you failed to say, how you failed to communicate, right? And so she was really upset because she felt as if there was almost a ghost chasing her, right? And so when I say a ghost chasing her, it was like, oh my gosh, there are all these things about me from before that a lot of people don't know. And so what happens if that ghost shows up and tells, right? And so I guess what I was thinking about really deeply was like, you know what? I can't be who I was today without all of the broken pieces of me from yesterday. And so I was trying to communicate to her in a way that helped her get like, you are absolutely more powerful than comprehension. The lie is that there's something wrong with you or you're unworthy because of the missteps, because of what we considered mistakes along the path. The reality is that every single mistake absolutely influenced us in a certain way and brought us to this place. And so we are really a manifestation of all the hard work. And some of that hard work is rooted in the missteps that we took in life. And so I'm sharing that because I'm thinking, you know what, like one, I'm sure, in fact, I know there was a time that I thought very similarly in terms of, oh my gosh, there were just pieces of me that now when I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking? Or obviously I wasn't thinking, or, that could have been really dangerous or damaging to myself, my self-worth, whatever it is. And now I look back at it as an observer and just to see how long the road is and how far the journey was to get to this placement in life today. And so I'm really grateful for all of those experiences. And at the end of the day, while I would choose obviously not to repeat many of them, the reality is that I'm nothing without them. And so I can't carry shame for something that I knew no better, in terms of not doing, right? Like, so the question is, if you know better, do you do better? And you would hope the answer was yes. But at the end of the day, guilt is a very useless emotion, right? And guilt in the sense of continuing to badger yourself or berate yourself for your ignorance or your inexperience or your unwillingness to do something or not knowing better, right? Like at the end of the day, understand that this is all very deliberate, right? That there are no accidents or happenstance or coincidences, at least not in my perspective. So every single experience that you've had, bad, good, indifferent, great, you were supposed to have. And you were supposed to make meaning of and get something out of. And so granted, sometimes it happens that we don't particularly learn the lesson the first time. And so we continue to repeat these lessons over and over and over again. And once we understand kind of what the lesson is, we realize that there are different parts in our life where the same issue is showing up, right? So for example, if we're failing to communicate effectively within a relationship, right, with a partner, we probably are failing to communicate within the context of work, within the context of raising our children, talking to other friends, right? There are things that we just didn't know or we didn't know better about. And so some of those broken experiences, if you will, or experiences that broke us, if you will, were actually the culmination of just not being in a place where we could see what had to happen or the truth for what it was. And so it was interesting to hear her perspective and to hear the tears in her voice while she talks about it. And so my advice to her is kind of going to be my advice to you, which is the same advice I take every day. It's like every day we wake up and get an option to do something different, to be a better human being. But more importantly, the sum is only as good as its parts, right? So I'm only going to be the great human I am today based on all of those pieces of me, even the bad ones, even the ones that you wish you knew better about or you didn't do. So don't shame yourself to the extent of I'm bad or I'm not worthy, because yes, take the meanings and the lessons from them. Absolutely. Go and think about them deeply, sit in them and figure out what was it I was supposed to take from it. But don't badger yourself or belabor the point, right? Because that will absolutely bring you nothing, really. Maybe poor self-esteem, maybe not feeling as worthy as you are. My contribution to you is that you're dope. like we're just beings trying to figure it out. We're gonna make mistakes. And I think when we sit in this hard line that there's no redemption, it's counterintuitive, right? Because evolution speaks to evolving, right? Iterative beings continue to iterate to be better than they were before. So this idea that you were supposed to show up at 7 or 27 or 37 or whatever age and just know it all is pure nonsense. So my point to you is, be kind to yourself when you start to think about some of the things that you don't particularly cherish about your past. Try to make the meaning out of, try to get meaning out of it, to figure out why it was there and what was the positioning in your life at that time. But I by no means be ashamed to the extent that you can't forgive yourself, right? Because that freedom that you need, that we're seeking, that we're looking for, that soul calm that we're hoping to get to, is absolutely connected to forgiving yourself and finding your freedom. And understanding that all of your broken pieces, to me, are beautiful as hers, right? Like the bottom line is that part of her beauty is to understand the brokenness, right? Within the picture. It's all perspective. So when you look at this person before you or any people before you, understand that individuals are individuals, but we make mistakes along the way, bad choices, there's collateral damage in some of those mistakes. And that's not to excuse your behaviors, but is absolutely to help us understand that if we don't understand the depth of the mistake or the lesson embedded in the mistake or the misstep, then we're destined to repeat it. And that's where there are some folks who have a legacy of just hurting and harming people because they refuse to step outside what they think they know to figure out what they don't know and what has to happen so that they can live different or do things differently. But most people get that after the first, second, third, fifth fall for the same thing, that there might be time to change. So do that. Understand that at the end of the day, there are all these beautiful pieces of you, as if we look at it or think of it as a mosaic, right? And each piece adds a different perspective to who you are. But when you put it all together and you pull back from the mosaic, it's beautiful because it's intricate and there's all this complexity. That's who we are as individuals. That's who we are as spirits and bodies living a 3D experience, right? But try to go beyond that to understand how each of those experiences contributed to us, and try to find a place and a space of forgiveness for yourself. When we're looking at these things, to look at them and reflect on how it was everybody else's issue, to me, is not fruitful. It's really important that we take responsibility for the things we do and the ways we show up and the damage we cause, but we also are responsible to ourselves to the extent that we start to figure out what are the lessons that I needed to learn in order to live a better life, to be a better person, and every day continue to be better than you were yesterday. So in the spirit of that, a few questions is, what are the things that you're ashamed of that when you think of bring you to tears or put you in a space of like, why would I have done that? Or why did I do that, right? Whatever those are, spend some time grounding yourself and really working through this process of forgiveness and understanding that even the broken pieces of us are worthy of who we are. And essentially, even as we heal them, they're still definitely parts of us. So don't forget that. All right. Until next time, like, share, subscribe. My email's in the description box. Have an awesome day. Thanks.